In the quiet village of Silver Stream, nestled in the crook of the Whispering River, lived a girl named Ilara. Her cottage, like all the others, was built of smooth, river-worn stones and roofed with thick thatch, its windows overlooking a garden where moon petals bloomed. These weren't ordinary flowers. They unfurled their pearlescent petals only as twilight deepened, drinking in the first silver rays of the moon to glow with a soft, ethereal light throughout the night. Ilara loved the moon petals, their gentle luminescence a beacon in the dusk. But even more, she loved the stories they seemed to hum, a silent song carried on the cool evening air. Ilara herself was a creature of quiet observation, with eyes the color of moss after a spring rain and hair the shade of sun-kissed wheat. She possessed a heart brimming with curiosity, often found perched on the riverbank, watching the water flow, or tucked away in the village library, lost in tales of old. Silverstream was a peaceful place, its days marked by the rhythmic clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the distant bleating of sheep, and the sweet scent of baking bread from the communal ovens. But for Ilara, there was always something more, something just beyond the edges of her everyday world. It was the whisper. Not the gentle murmur of the Whispering River, though that too was a constant companion, but another sound entirely. A sound like silk rustling through ancient leaves, or a secret breathed on the wind, so faint it often felt less like hearing and more like an echo in her soul. It was a melody without notes, a feeling more than a sound, and it was hers alone, it seemed. No one else in Silverstream ever spoke of it. They heard the river, of course, and the wind sighing through the great, gnarled trees of the Whisperwood forest that skirted the village's eastern edge. But the whisper Ilara knew was different. It was alive. Her grandmother, Nana Maeve, a woman with a smile as warm as hearthfire and hands gnarled like ancient roots, was the only one who didn't dismiss Ilara's musings. Nana Maeve had a way of knowing things without being told, and her eyes, though clouded with age, held a deep, knowing twinkle. When Ilara would mention the faint rustling she heard even on windless days, Nana Maeve would simply pat her hand and say, "Some ears are tuned to different frequencies, little stargazer. The world holds more songs than most are willing to hear." One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of apricot and rose, Ilara was in the moon-petal garden with Nana Maeve. The first blossoms were unfurling, their inner glow just beginning to pulse. A cool breeze, carrying the scent of damp earth and blooming night flowers, swept through the garden. And with it, the whisper. It coiled around Ilara, a soft, insistent presence, distinct from the rustle of leaves or the distant sound of the river. It felt closer tonight, almost as if it was circling the garden, testing the air. "Do you hear it, Nana?" Ilara asked, her voice hushed, her gaze sweeping towards the edge of the Whisperwood, where the trees stood like silent sentinels, their ancient branches reaching towards the darkening sky. Nana Maeve paused in her careful tending of a young moon-petal sprout. Her head tilted slightly, as if listening to something beyond Ilara's perception. A small, knowing smile played on her lips. "The forest is waking, child, and it has many voices." She didn't confirm hearing the whisper Ilara heard, but she didn't deny its existence either. She merely acknowledged the living, breathing essence of the world around them. As the moon climbed higher, casting the village in a wash of silver, the moon petals in the garden glowed with their full splendor, turning the yard into a starry carpet. Ilara, still feeling the whisper's gentle pull, wandered towards the garden gate, her eyes fixed on the line of trees. The Whisperwood was a place of reverence and caution for the villagers. Its depths were said to hold ancient magic, forgotten paths, and creatures rarely seen by mortal eyes. Most stayed to the well-worn paths along its edges, gathering firewood or foraging for berries, but never venturing far beyond the first sentinel trees. Tonight, however, the whisper felt less like a distant call, and more like a gentle invitation. It pulsed, a soft thrumming beneath her skin, urging her closer. Ilara took a step, then another, until she stood at the very edge of the woods, where the cultivated path ended and the wild, untamed forest began. The air here was cooler, heavier with the scent of pine and damp moss. The trees, older and grander than any in the village, seemed to lean in, their branches intertwined overhead, forming a dark, leafy canopy that swallowed the moonlight. And there, just beyond the reach of the moon petal's glow, she saw it. A flicker. A shimmer of light, not like the steady glow of the moon petals, but more ephemeral, like heat haze on a summer road, except it was cool and silver. It danced between two ancient oaks, a fleeting, almost transparent ripple in the air, accompanied by a sudden, intense surge of the whisper, which now sounded like 1,000 tiny bells, chiming softly in unison. It lasted only a moment, then vanished, leaving behind only the deeper darkness of the woods and a profound silence, broken only by the chirping of crickets. Elara's heart beat a little faster, a thrill of wonder mixed with a touch of apprehension stirring within her. She hadn't imagined it. It was real. The whisper, the shimmer, they were connected. They were a sign. This was the something more she had always felt stirring at the edges of her world. Sleep that night was elusive. Elara lay in her bed, the soft glow of a moon petal she'd brought inside, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Her mind replayed the shimmering flicker, the intensified whisper. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that she had to find out what it was. The whisper wasn't just a sound, it was a guide. It was calling her. The next morning, before the sun had fully chased the mist from the river, Elara was up. She packed a small satchel, 2 sweet berry tarts Nana Maeve had baked the day before, a flask of cool river water, and for luck, the smooth gray river stone her grandmother had given her years ago. It fit perfectly in her palm, warm and comforting. "Where are you off to so early, little sprout?" Nana Maeve asked, her voice soft as Elara tiptoed past the kitchen. She was already at the hearth, stirring a pot of simmering porridge. Elara hesitated, then met her grandmother's gaze. I'm going to explore the Whisperwood, Nana, just a little way in." She didn't mention the whisper, or the shimmer. Some secrets were too new, too fragile, to be spoken aloud. Nana Maeve's eyes, those deep knowing pools, lingered on Elara's face. She didn't frown, didn't forbid. Instead, she offered a small, encouraging smile. "Be careful, my stargazer. The wood has its own rhythms. Listen to them. And remember, the truest path is often the one that whispers your name." She handed Elara a small, intricately carved wooden bird, no bigger than her thumb. For good company. Elara clutched the tiny bird, its smooth wood warm against her fingers, and a wave of gratitude washed over her. Nana Maeve understood, in her own quiet way. With a final hug, Elara stepped out into the crisp morning air, her satchel slung over her shoulder, the little wooden bird tucked safely in her pocket. She walked towards the Whisperwood, the village still sleepy behind her. The familiar path quickly faded into a narrow deer trail as she entered the forest's embrace. Immediately, the air shifted. It grew cooler, the light dappled and green, filtered through 1,000 layers of leaves. The trees here were truly ancient, their trunks thick and twisted, covered in emerald moss and strange glowing fungi that pulsed with a faint internal light. Their branches, heavy with dark green leaves, reached out like gnarled fingers, forming a high vaulted ceiling overhead. The ground was a soft carpet of fallen leaves and springy moss, cushioned and silent beneath her boots. Sunlight struggled to penetrate the canopy, creating pockets of deep shadow and shafts of ethereal light that pierced through in golden columns, illuminating dust motes dancing in the still air. And there it was again, the whisper. It was no longer faint. It enveloped her, a gentle hum that resonated through the very earth, through the trees themselves. It felt like the forest breathing. Elara didn't need to look for a path. The whisper guided her. It seemed to emanate from deeper within the woods, pulling her gently forward. She followed, her senses alive. The forest was teeming with life, yet it was a quiet, almost reverent life. Small, iridescent insects flitted through the air, their wings shimmering with all the colors of the rainbow. Tiny, bell-shaped flowers, unseen in the village gardens, chimed with a sound so delicate it was barely audible, yet distinct. She walked for what felt like hours, deeper and deeper into the Whisperwood. The trees grew taller, their bark intricately patterned, some adorned with glowing vines that spiraled upwards like living light. The air grew sweeter, carrying the scent of unknown blossoms and a faint, metallic tang. She passed a stream, its water so clear she could see every polished pebble on its bed, its surface reflecting the dappled sunlight like a shattered mirror. The whisper intensified with every step, becoming a chorus, a symphony of soft, melodic sounds that seemed to rise and fall with her breath. It wasn't overwhelming, but rather soothing, like a lullaby woven into the very fabric of the forest. And then, she saw it. Lying on a moss-covered stone, nestled amongst a cluster of luminous ferns, was a small object. It was a piece of wood, smooth and polished, intricately carved into a delicate swirling pattern. It glowed with a soft internal light, much like the moon petals, but its hue was a deep, shimmering silver blue. It felt ancient, yet vibrant, pulsing faintly with the same energy as the whisper around her. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. A charm, perhaps? Or a clue? Elara picked it up. It was cool and smooth beneath her fingers, and as she held it, the whisper intensified further, wrapping around her, feeling like a warm embrace. The charm itself pulsed in her hand, a soft, steady beat that seemed to echo her own heartbeat. She felt a profound sense of connection, as if this tiny glowing object was a key, unlocking a deeper layer of the forest's magic. Clutching the charm, Elara continued to follow the whisper, which now felt like a distinct path unfolding before her. The forest seemed to part for her, the undergrowth less dense, the ancient roots forming natural steps. The air grew even sweeter, carrying a scent she couldn't quite place, like starlight and damp earth and something else, something utterly magical. Finally, after one last turn around a massive, ivy-clad tree, she emerged into a clearing. It was not like any clearing she had ever seen. The light here was not dappled sunlight, but a soft, pervasive glow, originating from no discernible source, bathing the entire glade in an ethereal, silver-blue luminescence. The grass underfoot was impossibly green, dotted with flowers that shimmered and pulsed with faint inner lights. Butterflies with wings like stained glass drifted lazily through the air, leaving trails of sparkling dust. And in the very center of the glade stood a tree. It was unlike any other tree in the Whisper Wood, or indeed, in all of Silverstream. Its trunk was impossibly wide, its bark not rough and gnarled, but smooth and iridescent, rippling with all the colors of the aurora borealis. Its branches, thick as the mightiest oaks, reached up towards the sky, bearing leaves that glowed with a gentle inner radiance, like 1,000 tiny lanterns. From its highest boughs, delicate silvery vines hung down, adorned with blossoms that resembled suspended drops of starlight. The air around it hummed, a deep, resonant thrum that was the very heart of the whisper, now a symphony of pure, crystalline sound. Elara stood mesmerized, the glowing charm still clutched in her hand, its light mirroring the glade's ethereal glow. She felt a profound sense of awe, a quiet reverence for the sheer, breathtaking beauty before her. This was the source. She knew it. This was where the whisper truly lived. And then, from beneath the ancient tree, something stirred. A soft ripple of light, a gentle shift in the air, a movement that wasn't quite a shadow, but a presence. It was elusive, shimmering, like the first flicker she had seen at the edge of the woods, but infinitely more powerful, more concentrated. The whisper around her swelled, a crescendo of pure magical sound, vibrating through the very ground beneath her feet. Elara took a hesitant step forward, her eyes wide with wonder, her heart pounding a gentle rhythm against her ribs. The glowing charm in her hand pulsed, its light intensifying, seeming to draw her closer, to beckon her towards the shimmering presence beneath the ancient iridescent tree. She felt no fear, only an overwhelming sense of destiny. A quiet recognition that she had found what she had been searching for all along. She was on the precipice of discovery, about to meet the very heart of the whisper, the magical being whose call had drawn her so deep into the enchanted Whisperwood. Elara took another step, her bare feet sinking slightly into the soft mossy earth that glowed faintly with its own inner luminescence. The air around the tree shimmered, not with heat, but with a palpable energy, like the silent song of 1,000 tiny bells. The iridescent bark of the tree seemed to breathe, shifting through every color of the rainbow, each hue bleeding seamlessly into the next, creating a living, swirling aurora. Beneath its vast, shimmering canopy, where the light was most concentrated, sat a creature of breathtaking beauty. It wasn't a beast, nor an elf, nor any being Elara had ever seen in her grandmother's oldest storybooks. It was pure light, coalesced into a form both ethereal and strangely solid. Imagine a being woven from moonlight and dew, its form vaguely humanoid, yet constantly shifting like mist catching the first rays of dawn. Its skin was a kaleidoscope of soft pastel light, flowing like silk, and within its chest, a gentle golden pulse beat, mirroring the rhythm of Elara's own charm. Its eyes, if they could be called eyes, were deep pools of starlight, ancient and knowing, that regarded her with an infinite, gentle curiosity. It raised a hand, not a hand of flesh but of luminous energy, delicate and translucent. A wave of warmth, like a gentle summer breeze carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine, washed over Elara, calming any lingering trepidation. The charm in her hand vibrated in perfect harmony with the being's pulse, its light now a steady, unwavering beacon. "Welcome, Elara of the Sunstone," a voice whispered, not from lips, but from within her own mind, clear as a mountain spring, yet resonant as the deepest ocean. It was the whisper, magnified, clarified, speaking directly to her heart. "You have heard the call. You have found the heart of the whisper wood." Elara, mesmerized, could only nod, her throat suddenly dry. You know my name," she managed, her voice a reedy whisper compared to the silent majesty of the being's communication. "I know all who seek the whispers, child, and I have known your spirit long before your feet first touched the paths of the whisper wood." The light being tilted its head slightly, a gesture that was both alien and strangely endearing. "My essence is the heart of this forest, the source of its magic, and the keeper of its ancient secrets. Many call me Lumina, the weaver of whispers." "Lumina," Elara repeated, the name feeling like a secret on her tongue. "It was you who called me? The whispers, what are they?" Lumina's form shimmered, and around them, the air seemed to thicken with tiny motes of light, dancing like fireflies. "The whispers are the song of the world, Elara, the silent melodies of magic that flow through all living things, through the earth, the sky, and the very stars themselves. Most cannot hear them, or they mistake them for the rustling of leaves or the murmur of the wind. But a few, like you, possess a deeper attunement, a sensitivity that allows the whispers to resonate within their soul." Elara looked down at the glowing charm in her hand, then back at Lumina. "This charm, my grandmother said it would guide me. It is a fragment of my own essence," Lumina explained, "imbued by your grandmother, the Elder Maeve, to amplify your connection. It acts as a beacon, both for you to find me and for me to find you. For many years I have sent the whispers, hoping for one who would answer, one who could understand." "Why?" Elara asked, a growing sense of purpose blooming within her chest. "Why call me? Why now?" Lumina's starlight eyes seemed to deepen, reflecting untold ages of time. "The balance, Elara, the balance of magic in our world is faltering. The whispers, once a vibrant chorus, are growing faint. An ancient shadow, long dormant, stirs again, reaching out from the forgotten corners of the realm. It is a presence that feeds on doubt and fear, that siphons the very essence of magic, turning vibrant hues to ash and silencing." Elara felt a chill, despite the pervasive warmth of Lumina's presence. "A shadow? What kind of shadow?" "It has no true name, for names give it power," Lumina replied, her voice thought now tinged with a delicate sadness. "But its effects are clear. Have you not noticed the wilting of the farmlands beyond the village borders? The unusual chill in the autumn winds? The fading of the fireflies' glow in the meadows? These are but whispers of its influence, growing stronger, spreading like a blight." Elara thought of the village, of the worried murmurs about dwindling harvests and the increasing difficulty of simple enchantments. She had attributed it to a harsh winter, or perhaps just bad luck. But Lumina's words painted a far more ominous picture. "And what can I do?" Elara asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm just me. I have some magic, but it's small, clumsy even sometimes." She remembered her struggles with the basic levitation spell, the way her attempts to mend a broken pitcher usually ended in a shower of glittering dust. Lumina offered what might have been a smile, a gentle ripple of light across its form. "You are more than just you, Elara. You are a listener, a seeker, one whose heart holds the purest resonance with the whispers. Your magic, while perhaps nascent, is true, and it is not raw power that is needed now, but understanding, connection, and the courage to rekindle the fading song." "Rekindle the song?" "Yes. The shadow thrives on silence and separation. It seeks to sever the connections that bind magic together. To fight it, we must strengthen those connections, awaken dormant magic, and remind the world of its inherent harmony. And for this, Elara, you must embark on a journey." Elara's heart hammered against her ribs, a mix of apprehension and exhilaration. "A journey?" The very word tasted of adventure and destiny. "Where must I go?" "You must seek the 3 lost harmonies," Lumina explained. "Ancient sources of magic, each a unique note in the world's grand symphony, hidden away long ago when the first shadow threatened our realm. They are fragments of the world's original song, imbued with immense power to counteract the discord that now spreads." "The lost harmonies," Elara murmured, trying to commit the mysterious phrase to memory. "Where are they?" Lumina's light pulsed, and a map, shimmering and translucent, began to form in the air before them, composed of swirling dust motes and concentrated light. It depicted a vast fantastical landscape, far beyond the familiar borders of the Whisperwood. The first lies within the crystal caves of Athel. Deep beneath the whispering peaks, Lumina indicated a jagged mountain range on the ethereal map. "It is the harmony of resonance, the echo of the earth's deep heart, guarded by beings of stone and ancient song. The second dwells in the sky islands of Zephyr. High above the cloud sea, Lumina shifted the map to show islands floating amidst impossible clouds. It is the harmony of breath, the spirit of the winds and the boundless sky, protected by swift-winged folk. And the third, Lumina's light dimmed slightly, is hidden in the sunken city of Lyra, beneath the shimmering ocean. It is the harmony of flow, the rhythm of water and the tides of time, guarded by creatures of the deep, who have long forgotten the surface world." The scale of the journey was daunting. Elara had never left the Whisperwood, save for brief visits to the nearest market town. To travel to distant mountains, floating islands, and a city beneath the ocean, it felt impossibly grand. How will I find them?" Elara asked, her voice small again. "And how can I, alone, retrieve them?" "You will not be alone, Elara," Lumina assured her. "The whispers will guide you, and your charm will serve as a compass, reacting to the presence of the harmonies. And along your path, you will find allies. Others who, like you, feel the fading song and yearn to restore it. They may not hear the whispers as clearly, but their hearts are true, and their skills will complement your own." As Lumina spoke, the iridescent tree around them seemed to hum with renewed vigor. Its light brightened, and from the edges of the clearing, faint, shimmering outlines began to emerge. They were not solid beings, but rather spectral, translucent figures like echoes of forest spirits. They moved with silent grace, their forms shifting like smoke, observing Elara with ancient, benevolent eyes. "These are the guardians of the Whisperwood," Lumina explained, sensing Elara's curiosity. "They have watched over this sacred place for millennia. They cannot leave the forest, but their wisdom will be a part of your journey. Listen to their silent counsel, for it is woven into the very fabric of the wood." Elara felt a profound sense of awe. She was truly surrounded by magic, by ancient beings, by a purpose greater than she could have ever imagined. The simplicity of her village life, her daily chores, her grandmother's quiet stories, all now seemed like a prelude to this moment. "The path will be long and challenges will arise," Lumina continued. "But your heart, Elara, is strong. You carry the hope of the whispers within you. Do you accept this quest, Elara of the Sunstone? Will you answer the song and seek the lost harmony?" Elara looked around at the shimmering guardians, at the ancient, breathing tree, and then back at the luminous form of Lumina. Her initial fear had entirely dissipated, replaced by a quiet determination. This was what the whispers had been calling her to. This was her destiny. "Yes," she said, her voice clear and firm, resonating with a newfound confidence. "Yes, I will. I will seek the lost harmonies. I will answer the song." A soft, melodious chime, like 1,000 tiny bells woven into one, echoed through the clearing. Lumina's light intensified, bathing Elara in a warm, protective glow. The charm in her hand pulsed brightly, almost as if it were a part of Lumina itself, now fully attuned to its purpose. "Excellent, Elara. Your journey begins at dawn. Rest here within the heart of the Whisperwood. Let the forest's magic soothe your spirit and prepare you for the path ahead. The first step will lead you out of the Whisperwood, towards the foothills of the Whispering Peaks. Follow the ancient path of the Moonpetal River. It will guide you north." As Lumina spoke, Elara felt a gentle weariness settle over her, not of exhaustion, but of deep peace. The air grew softer, warmer, wrapping around her like a silken blanket. The iridescent tree's light seemed to dim slightly, yet its comforting glow remained. The spectral guardians, too, softened their forms, becoming almost invisible against the forest's backdrop, their silent vigil continuing. Elara lay down on the mossy ground, the glowing charm still clutched in her hand. The ground was surprisingly soft, almost like a bed of down feathers, and the air carried the intoxicating scent of unknown blossoms and fresh earth. As she drifted towards sleep, she heard the whispers again, not as an urgent call, but as a lullaby, a soft encouraging melody that wove itself into her dreams. She dreamt of towering mountains made of sparkling crystal, of islands floating in an endless sky, and of cities gleaming under the ocean's surface. She dreamt of allies she hadn't met, of challenges she couldn't yet imagine, and of a world waiting to be reawakened by a song. The next morning, Elara woke with the first blush of dawn painting the sky in hues of rose and gold. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. Lumina was no longer present in its concentrated form, but Elara could feel its essence all around her, a gentle hum in the very air of the clearing. The iridescent tree glowed softly, its colors muted by the morning light, but still breathtaking. The charm in her hand pulsed with a steady, reassuring warmth. She rose, feeling refreshed and invigorated, a surprising lightness in her step. Gone was the hesitation, replaced by a quiet resolve. She knew where she had to go. She took a moment to look around the sacred clearing, etching every detail into her memory: the ancient, shimmering tree, the mossy ground, the lingering magic in the air. This place, the heart of the Whisperwood, would always be a part of her, a source of strength and purpose. As she turned to leave, a small, vibrant blue butterfly, with wings that shimmered like stained glass, landed gently on her shoulder. It was unlike any butterfly she had ever seen, its colors impossibly bright, its antennae tipped with tiny glowing orbs. It seemed to look at her with an intelligent curiosity. "Hello there," Elara whispered, holding still. The butterfly fluttered its wings, and a tiny, almost imperceptible chime resonated in the air. It lifted off her shoulder and began to fly slowly ahead, pausing every now and then, as if waiting for her to follow. Elara smiled. Perhaps this was one of the allies Lumina had spoken of, or at least a guide. "All right, little one," she said, and began to walk, following the shimmering butterfly out of the heart of the Whisperwood, and onto a path she had never noticed before. A path that led north, towards the distant, hazy outline of the Whispering Peaks. The path was narrow, winding through ancient trees whose branches intertwined overhead, forming a natural archway. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, creating shifting patterns on the forest floor. The air grew cooler as she walked, and the familiar scent of the Whisperwood slowly began to blend with the crisp, clean smell of mountain air. Her little butterfly guide, whom she decided to call Shimmer, danced ahead, always just within sight, its glowing antennae a comforting presence. Elara felt a pang of longing for her grandmother, for the familiar comfort of her cottage, but the excitement of the journey overshadowed it. She was answering a call, fulfilling a destiny. After several hours of walking, the trees began to thin, and the ground started to rise gently. Soon, Elara found herself at the edge of the Whisperwood, where the ancient forest gave way to rolling hills covered in tougher, scrubbier vegetation. In the distance, the Whispering Peaks loomed, their snow-capped summits gleaming faintly in the morning sun. And there, winding its way through the valley below, was a wide, clear river, its waters sparkling like liquid silver, the Moonpetal River. "There it is, Shimmer," Elara murmured, pointing. Shimmer fluttered excitedly around her head before darting down towards the riverbank. Elara followed, her boots crunching on the gravelly path. The river was wider and faster than any she had seen in the Whisperwood. Its water was impossibly clear, and she could see smooth, colorful stones on its bed. She knelt at the edge, cupping her hands and taking a long, refreshing drink. The water was cool and sweet, invigorating her. As she drank, she noticed something peculiar about the river stones. Many of them had faint, intricate patterns etched into their surfaces, patterns that seemed to glow subtly from within. She picked one up, a smooth gray stone with swirling blue lines. As she held it, she felt a faint vibration, a soft hum against her palm. It was another whisper, clearer than any she had heard before, a faint melody that seemed to resonate with the flowing water. "The harmony of resonance," she whispered to herself, remembering Lumina's words. the echo of the earth's deep heart. This river, she realized, must be imbued with its magic, a hint of what awaited her in the crystal caves. She spent a few moments exploring the riverbank, marveling at the glowing stones. Shimmer darted between them, seemingly delighted by their soft luminescence. Elara collected a few of the smaller, more vibrant stones, tucking them into the small leather pouch she carried, along with her grandmother's charm. She felt a growing sense of connection to the world around her, as if the magic was beginning to unfold before her eyes, revealing secrets she had never known existed. The sun began to climb higher, warming her face. Elara knew she needed to keep moving. She found a faint trail running alongside the river, clearly an ancient path, though little used. It led upstream, deeper into the valley towards the jagged peaks. The landscape changed subtly as she walked. The hills grew steeper, the trees became hardier, more gnarled, clinging to rocky outcrops. The air grew cooler still, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth. The river beside her grew more boisterous, its rushing water a constant soothing companion. As evening approached, Elara began to look for a place to rest. The path had narrowed considerably, winding through a steep-sided gorge. The walls of the gorge were sheer rock, streaked with veins of what looked like dark, glittering minerals. Shimmer, who had been leading the way diligently, suddenly flew higher, circling excitedly above a small alcove in the rock face. Elara peered closer. It was a shallow cave, just large enough for her to shelter in with a flat, sandy floor. Perfect. She ducked inside, grateful for the shelter. The air within the cave was surprisingly mild, and she could hear the muffled roar of the river outside. She rummaged in her small pack, pulling out a piece of dried fruit and some hard bread her grandmother had packed. As she ate, she watched Shimmer flitting about the cave, its glow illuminating the rough rock walls. The cave was empty, save for a few fallen leaves blown in by the wind. But as Elara settled down, leaning against the cool rock, she noticed something embedded in the back wall. It was a cluster of crystals, jagged and unpolished, yet they shimmered with an inner light, casting faint, shifting colors onto the cave floor. They weren't as intensely vibrant as Lumina's tree, but they held a similar, subtle magic. She reached out, tracing the outline of one of the crystals with her finger. It was cool to the touch, and as she touched it, she felt a faint hum, a familiar resonance. This was it, she realized. She was getting closer to the crystal caves. The whispers were growing stronger. As darkness fully descended, Elara gathered some dry leaves and twigs from just outside the cave entrance. With a whispered word and a focused thought, she managed to coax a small, steady flame from her fingertips, igniting the tinder. The fire crackled merrily, casting dancing shadows on the cave walls, chasing away the chill. Shimmer settled on a nearby ledge, its own soft glow adding to the gentle illumination. The warmth of the fire, the sound of the river, and the subtle hum of the crystals lulled Elara. She felt a profound sense of peace, despite the vastness of the journey ahead. She wasn't just a girl from a small village anymore. She was a listener, a seeker, on a quest to restore the world's song. She thought of Lumina, of the shimmering tree, and of her grandmother. She knew they were with her in spirit. She closed her eyes, the glow of the charm in her hand a steady pulse against her palm, and drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep, ready for whatever the new dawn would bring on her path to the crystal caves of Athel. The next morning, Elara woke feeling completely rested, the fire having dwindled to glowing embers. She extinguished them carefully and stepped out of the cave. The air was colder here, carrying the sharp scent of pine and rock. The river rushed past, its voice louder in the morning stillness. The path continued to climb, becoming rougher and steeper. She had to scramble over loose rocks and navigate narrow ledges. Shimmer, however, seemed to have no trouble, flitting effortlessly ahead, occasionally waiting for her to catch up. As the day wore on, the vegetation grew sparser, replaced by barren rock faces and hardy, wind-stunted bushes. The towering peaks of the Whispering Mountains loomed closer, their rocky spires piercing the sky like ancient teeth. The air grew thinner, and Elara found herself breathing more deeply. By late afternoon, she reached a point where the river emerged from a dark, gaping maw in the mountainside. This had to be it, the entrance to the crystal caves of Athel. A raw, untamed power emanated from the darkness, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through the very ground beneath her feet. The charm in her hand glowed with a powerful, steady light, no longer just pulsing, but radiating a constant bright beacon. "This is it, Shimmer," Elara whispered, a mix of excitement and trepidation swirling within her. The butterfly landed on her shoulder, its tiny antennae twitching as if sensing the magic within. The entrance was imposing, a cavernous archway of dark, unpolished rock. Strange, wind-worn symbols were carved into the stone above the opening, barely visible in the fading light. As she approached, the air grew colder, and a faint, shimmering mist seemed to drift from within the cave. Elara took a deep breath, her hand tightening around the glowing charm. She remembered Lumina's words, guarded by beings of stone and ancient song. What would she find within? She stepped across the threshold, into the echoing darkness. The light from her charm immediately flared, pushing back the gloom, revealing a vast, echoing chamber. The air was cool and still, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something mineral and ancient. Her gaze swept across the chamber. It was immense, its ceiling lost in shadow. And everywhere, embedded in the walls, rising from the floor, hanging like chandeliers from above, were crystals. Millions of them. They weren't glowing like Lumina's tree, but they caught and refracted the light from Elara's charm, scattering it into a breathtaking display of shimmering colors. The chamber pulsed with a silent, vibrant energy. Each crystal seemed to hum with its own unique note, creating a silent, resonant symphony that filled the space. Elara walked deeper, her footsteps echoing. The ground was uneven, covered in crystal dust and small, fallen shards. The whispers here were no longer faint melodies. They were a powerful, resonant chorus, vibrating through her bones, her very soul. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the chamber, shaking the ground. Elara froze, her heart pounding. The sound wasn't threatening, but it was immense, like the earth itself was speaking. From the shadows at the far end of the cavern, a form began to coalesce. It was huge, towering, easily twice Elara's height. It was made of stone, massive boulders and jagged crystals forming its limbs and torso. Its skin was rough and gray, but streaks of glowing minerals pulsed beneath the surface, giving it a life of its own. Its eyes, deep-set and luminous, were like polished emeralds, ancient and wise. This was a golem, Elara realized, one of the beings of stone Lumina had spoken of. It moved slowly, deliberately, each step shaking the very foundations of the cave. Its movements were accompanied by the grinding of stone, a low, resonant growl that seemed to vibrate from the earth itself. "Who approaches the heart of Ethel?" the golem's voice rumbled, not in Elara's mind, but in a deep, booming tone that seemed to shake the crystals around them. Its voice was like grinding glaciers, yet held a strange, melodic quality, a deep bass note in the cavern's silent symphony. Elara swallowed, trying to find her voice. Shimmer fluttered nervously from her shoulder to her hair, then back to her shoulder. "My name is Elara," she announced, trying to sound brave. "Elara of the Sunstone. I seek the harmony of resonance." The golem's emerald eyes narrowed, studying her. "The harmony has been undisturbed for ages. It sleeps, protecting this realm from discord. Why do you seek to awaken it?" "The balance of magic is faltering," Elara explained, her voice gaining strength as she remembered Lumina's words. "An ancient shadow spreads, silencing the world's song. Lumina, the weaver of whispers, sent me. I am here to rekindle the lost harmonies, to restore the world's song." The golem was silent for a long moment, its immense form unmoving. Its luminous eyes seemed to pierce through her, seeing into her very soul. Then, it slowly lowered its massive head. "Lumina has spoken of such a time," it rumbled. "A time when the earth would tremble, and the deep song would fade. A time when a listener would come, guided by the whispers. I have waited for you, Elara of the Sunstone." Elara felt a wave of relief wash over her. It knew. It understood. "The harmony of resonance is not easily awakened," the golem continued, its voice a deep drone. "It requires a true heart, a clear mind, and a spirit attuned to the earth's rhythm. You must prove yourself worthy. You must hear the deepest whisper of Ethel." "How?" Elara asked, eager to prove herself. The golem gestured with a massive stone hand towards a central platform in the chamber, where a single enormous crystal spire rose from the floor, taller than Elara herself, glittering with an internal light more intense than any other in the cave. This was it, the harmony itself. You must place your hand upon the spire, the golem instructed, and listen. Listen to the song of the earth, to the vibrations of the stone, to the ancient pulse that beats beneath your feet. Let the harmony flow into you, and let it judge your spirit. If you are true, it will awaken. If you are not. The golem left the sentence unfinished, but Elara understood the unspoken warning. Failure might mean more than just disappointment. Taking in a deep breath, Elara walked towards the massive crystal spire. It hummed with an incredible energy, and as she drew closer, she felt a profound sense of connection to the earth, a deep, comforting stability. Shimmer flew to perch on her head, its tiny glowing antennae twitching with anticipation. She reached out her hand, the charm still glowing brightly in her palm, and pressed it against the cool, smooth surface of the crystal spire. Immediately a surge of energy, cold yet invigorating, shot up her arm. It wasn't painful, but intensely powerful. The crystal spire flared with light, mirroring the glow of her charm. The whispers in the cave intensified, becoming a roar, a symphony of deep, resonant tones that vibrated through every cell of her body. Elara closed her eyes, focusing, letting the energy wash over her. She felt the pulse of the earth, slow and steady, like a giant heart beating deep beneath the mountains. She heard the ancient songs of the stones, murmurs of ages past, tales of mountains rising and rivers carving canyons. She felt the roots of trees reaching deep, the flow of magma far below, the shift of tectonic plates. It was overwhelming, a torrent of sensory input, 1,000 years of Earth's history flooding her mind. But within the torrent, there was a core, a steady, unwavering note. The harmony of resonance. It was pure, unadulterated essence of stability, groundedness, and unwavering strength. It was the whisper of belonging, the feeling of being utterly connected to the very foundation of the world. Elara focused on that core, allowing it to resonate with her own spirit. She thought of her village, nestled securely in the whisper wood. She thought of her grandmother, solid and wise. She thought of Lumina, the heart of the forest. All these connections, these grounding forces in her life, came to mind, reinforcing her own sense of purpose and belonging. A warmth began to spread from her hand through her arm and into her chest, mixing with the invigorating coolness. The roaring symphony of whispers began to coalesce, to blend into a single, beautiful, deep chord. It was the earth's song, strong and true. Then slowly, the energy began to subside, the symphony softening into a gentle hum. Elara opened her eyes. The crystal spire before her was glowing with a new intensity, a deep, vibrant emerald light that seemed to pulse with life. The glow from her charm was now perfectly matched, a harmonious beacon. And within her, Elara felt a profound shift. It wasn't a sudden burst of power, but a deep, quiet strength, a sense of being anchored, connected, truly, present. She felt the whisper of the earth within her, a steady, unwavering beat. The golem, which had been standing motionless, let out another low rumble, this one tinged with satisfaction. You have heard the deepest whisper, Elara of the Sunstone, it boomed. You have awakened the harmony of resonance. As it spoke, the enormous crystal spire began to glow even brighter, and from its peak, a single shimmering orb of emerald light detached itself. It floated gently down, hovering before Elara. It was about the size of her palm, perfectly round, and pulsed with the same deep, resonant green light. This was the harmony, now a tangible essence. Elara reached out and carefully took the orb. It was weightless, yet felt incredibly solid, radiating a steady, comforting warmth. She could feel the earth's heartbeat within it, a silent, powerful rhythm. This is yours now, listener, the golem said. Carry it with care. Its light will strengthen the earth's song, and its presence will guide you to the next harmony. Elara carefully placed the emerald orb into her pouch, nestling it beside her grandmother's charm and the glowing river stones. Even through the leather, she could feel its gentle thrum. Thank you, she said, looking up at the majestic golem. Thank you for guarding it, and for trusting me. The golem gave a slow, deliberate nod. The path ahead will test you further, little listener, but the earth's strength is now within you. Let it be your foundation. Now you must rest. The journey to the sky islands of Zephyr is long, and the mountains hold many secrets between here and the cloud sea. Elara looked around the vast, crystal-filled cavern, feeling a sense of accomplishment and wonder. She had done it. She had found the first lost harmony. The world's song was one step closer to being restored. She knew she couldn't linger. The golem's words were clear. She needed to prepare for the next leg of her journey. The sky islands of Zephyr, the harmony of breath, and the swift, winged folk. A whole new set of challenges awaited her. As the golem slowly began to recede back into the shadows from which it came, its form blending with the crystalline walls, Elara found a sheltered spot amongst the smaller crystals. Shimmer settled on a nearby crystal shard, its glow reflecting in the facets, creating a tiny, rainbow-hued beacon. Elara lay down, feeling the steady thrum of the harmony of resonance in her pouch, a comforting counterpoint to the persistent glow of her grandmother's charm. The whispers of the crystal caves, once an overwhelming symphony, now settled into a gentle, harmonious hum, a lullaby woven from stone and ancient earth. She knew sleep would come easily tonight, filled with dreams of soaring through clouds and meeting creatures of the wind. Her quest had truly begun, and she was ready. Elara awoke to the soft chime of crystal dewdrops falling from the cavern ceiling. The harmony of resonance pulsed warmly in her pouch, a soft, rhythmic beat against her side, echoing the steady glow of her grandmother's charm. The whispers of the crystal caves had indeed become a lullaby, and a new understanding stirred within her. The charm wasn't merely a beacon, it was a compass, its persistent light now subtly tugging her not deeper into the earth, but upwards. She rose, her steps light and sure, no longer tentative in the labyrinthine passages. The charm's glow intensified, painting the crystalline walls with shifting hues of amethyst and emerald, revealing a path previously hidden. It was a narrow crevice, almost imperceptible, snaking upwards like a forgotten vein of light. As she ventured into it, the air grew cooler, fresher, carrying a faint scent of pine and distant rain. The walls around her were no longer pure crystal but veins of quartz embedded in ancient rock, smoothed by millennia of water flow and the passage of untold beings. Hours turned into a timeless ascent. The passage narrowed and widened, sometimes requiring her to squeeze through tight gaps, other times opening into vast echoing shafts where the charm's light barely pierced the profound darkness above. Yet, the upward pull remained constant, an invisible string guiding her higher and higher. She ate the dried fruit and nuts she had packed. Sipped from a small flask of water, her energy sustained not just by food, but by the burgeoning sense of purpose within her. Finally, after what felt like an age, the passage abruptly ended in a burst of cool, clean air and a pale pearlescent light. Elara pushed through a curtain of shimmering moss, emerging onto a vast, high plateau. Above her, the sky was a canvas of soft dawn colors, just beginning to blush with the promise of sunrise. Before her, stretching into the hazy distance, lay a world unlike any she had imagined. This was the Whisperwind Plateau, a land of ancient gnarled trees that whispered secrets in the breeze, and meadows blanketed in flowers that glowed with an inner luminescence. Towering over the landscape, shrouded in a perpetual crown of clouds, were the cloud-crowned mountains, their peaks piercing the heavens like the teeth of some slumbering titan. And above them, almost impossibly high, a faint, shimmering iridescence hinted at the bow-hued beacon her grandmother had spoken of. As Elara took her first steps onto the plateau, a tremor ran through the earth. The whispering trees rustled urgently, and the glowing flowers pulsed with a worried light. Then, from the shadow of a colossal, moss-draped stone, a creature emerged. It was a stone sentinel, its body carved from granite and lichen, its eyes two ancient, glowing amber orbs. It moved with a slow, deliberate grace, its very presence radiating an aura of profound age and quiet wisdom. A child of the valley, its voice rumbled, sounding like the shifting of mountains. It has been an age since one found the upward path. Elara, though startled, felt no fear. The sentinel's gaze was kind, its energy resonant with the earth. "I am Elara," she introduced herself, clutching the harmony of resonance. "My grandmother sent me. I seek the bow-hued beacon and the creatures of the wind." The sentinel's amber eyes seemed to gaze into the very depths of her soul. "The harmony of resonance," it intoned, its voice softening slightly as it recognized the artifact. "The song of the earth in your hand, the light of your lineage in your pouch. You are well chosen, Elara. But the path ahead is shadowed by a growing silence. The silence? Elara asked, her brow furrowed. Aye. A deep, pervasive dissonance has settled upon the cloud-crowned mountains, the sentinel explained, its gaze turning to the distant peaks. It began subtly, a faint discord in the wind's song, a dulling of the sky's vibrant hues. Now it has grown, trapping the aetherwings, the creatures of pure light and sound, who weave the colors of the sky and carry the world's whispers. The bow-hued beacon, the prism peak, their gathering place and source of their greatest magic, is dimming, its light choked by this silence. What is this dissonance? Elara pressed, a knot forming in her stomach. It is born of forgotten sorrow, amplified by the fear of change, and solidified by neglect, the sentinel replied, its voice tinged with melancholy. It feeds on the absence of joy and the fading of wonder. It is not a creature, but a pervasive shroud that seeks to silence all song, dim all light, and still all movement. You must reach the prism peak, Elara, before the dissonance consumes it entirely. Your harmony woven with your spirit is the only key. The sentinel extended a massive moss-covered hand, pointing towards a winding, barely visible trail that snaked upwards from the plateau. Follow the whispering path. It will lead you to the foothills of the cloud crowns. Be wary. The silence is strongest there. Listen not only with your ears, but with your heart. The aetherwings, though weakened, will guide you if they can. With a final profound nod, the stone sentinel receded back into the shadows, leaving Elara alone on the vast plateau, facing the daunting ascent. The sun was now fully risen, painting the sky with colors that even here seemed muted compared to the vibrant descriptions in her grandmother's tales. Elara began her climb, the whispering path a faint thread through fields of luminescent flowers and groves of whispering pines. The further she went, the more evident the dissonance became. The air grew heavy, thick, with an almost tangible silence. The cheerful chirping of unseen birds faded, replaced by an unnerving stillness. The colors of the flowers seemed to recede, their inner light struggling against an invisible oppression. Even the wind, which should have been a constant companion in this high land, seemed hesitant, its whispers strained and mournful. The grandmother's charm pulsed more rapidly now, its light a steady, reassuring beat against the encroaching gloom. The harmony of resonance, too, began to thrum with a faint, almost imperceptible vibration, as if sensing the challenge ahead. Days blended into a tireless journey upwards. Elara navigated treacherous scree slopes, crossed roaring glacial streams, and ascended through forests where the trees stood like silent, sorrowful sentinels. The cloud-crowned mountains loomed ever larger, their peaks now visible, shrouded not just in clouds, but in a strange grayish haze that seemed to absorb all light and sound. One evening, as she huddled beneath a rocky overhang, the cold biting deep, she heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer of light and sound. It was weak, fragile, like a dying ember. The grandmother's charm flared, and the harmony of resonance vibrated urgently. Guided by the faint shimmer, Elara ventured further into a hidden gully, protected by an ancient grove of stunted, ice-dusted firs. There, nestled amongst the roots, she found them. A cluster of aetherwings. They were magnificent creatures, even in their weakened state. Their forms were ethereal, woven from strands of pure light, their wings like iridescent gossamer. But now, their colors were faded, their light dim, flickering like candles in a storm. Their bodies, normally shimmering with a rainbow of hues, were mostly a dull pearlescent gray. Their songs, usually a symphony of crystalline chimes and melodic whispers, were reduced to soft, mournful hums, barely audible above the strained silence of the mountains. As Elara approached, one of the aetherwings, slightly larger and radiating a faint, hopeful sapphire glow, drifted towards her. Its form wavered, and Elara felt a gentle touch in her mind, a communication not of words, but of images and feelings. Sorrow, cold, silence, the aetherwing conveyed. A heartstone. The prism peak, choked. It showed her visions. The prism peak, once a glorious rainbow-hued spire, now encased in a shell of solidified gray dissonance. It showed her the aetherwings, desperately trying to sing, trying to shine, but their light absorbed, their songs muffled. It showed her a memory of the dissonance's origin, a deep, ancient sorrow, a forgotten grief echoing through the mountain's very core, given form and power by the world's diminishing wonder. "You have the song of the earth," the Aetherwing projected, its sapphire light momentarily brightening as it pulsed towards the harmony of resonance. "You have the light of the ancestors." It indicated her grandmother's charm. "Ah, you must ascend." The summit, the heart of the silence, more. The Aetherwing seemed to gather its last reserves of strength, projecting a final, urgent image. A path almost invisible, leading directly up the sheer face of the mountain, through swirling mists that seemed to writhe with the dissonance itself. With newfound resolve, Elara nodded. "I will go," she promised, her voice firm despite the chill wind. "I will not let the silence win." Leaving the struggling Aetherwings, Elara began the final, most perilous ascent. The path was treacherous, winding its way up the sheer rock face, sometimes disappearing entirely into the swirling grey mists. The dissonance here was palpable, a heavy oppressive weight that pressed in on her, trying to snuff out her hope, whispering doubts into her mind. She felt a profound loneliness, a sense of despair that was not her own, but seemed to emanate from the very mountain itself. But the grandmother's charm shone brighter than ever, a warm, steadfast light cutting through the gloom. The harmony of resonance thrummed against her, a steady, rhythmic pulse that countered the creeping despair. She focused on that warmth, that rhythm, and on the image of the vibrant Aetherwings, dancing in a sky full of rainbows. Hours passed, each step a battle against the physical and emotional weight of the dissonance. Her muscles ached, her lungs burned in the thin air, but she pushed on, one foot after the other, fueled by an unwavering determination. Finally, she reached the summit. It was not a sharp, majestic peak, but a broad, desolate plateau, utterly devoid of life. The sky above was a uniform, sickly gray, and the air was completely silent, a profound, deafening stillness that pressed against her ears. In the center of the plateau stood the Prism Peak, but it was a shadow of its former glory. It was a massive, crystalline spire, but it was encased in a thick, opaque shell of solidified dissonance, a dull, gray crust that completely obscured its inner brilliance. Not a single ray of light escaped, not a single shimmer of color. It looked like a tombstone for a rainbow. The dissonance pulsed around it, a tangible aura of sorrow and stillness. It felt ancient, heavy, born of a pain so deep it had hardened into stone. Elara approached the encrusted peak, her heart thumping. The harmony of resonance pulsed violently in her hand, vibrating with an urgent, desperate song. The grandmother's charm flared, casting a pure white light against the gray shell. She understood. The harmony was the song, the charm was the light, and her own spirit was the will to make them one. Taking a deep breath, Elara held the harmony of resonance aloft. Its crystal core began to glow, responding to the fierce light of her grandmother's charm. She closed her eyes, focusing on the gentle hum she had learned in the crystal caves, on the lullaby woven from stone and ancient earth. She thought of the vibrant colors of the Aetherwings, their joyful songs. She thought of her grandmother's steady love, and the wonder of the world she was fighting to save. Then, she began to sing. Her voice at first was a soft, trembling whisper, a tiny ripple in the vast ocean of silence. But as she poured her heart into it, drawing on the energy of the harmony of resonance and the guiding light of her charm, her voice grew stronger, clearer, imbued with the ancient song of the earth and the pure light of hope. The harmony of resonance resonated with her song, vibrating with an incredible intensity. A pure, golden wave of sound and light emanated from the artifact, amplified by her voice, weaving around the gray shell of the Prism Peak. The grandmother's charm blazed, its light intertwining with the golden resonance, painting the oppressive gray with streaks of vivid, vibrant colors. The dissonance resisted. The solidified shell of sorrow seemed to writhe, pushing back against the encroaching light and sound. The air grew colder, the silence deeper, trying to crush her song. Despair clawed at the edges of her mind, threatening to overwhelm her. But Elara held fast. She remembered the stone sentinel's words, "Listen not only with your ears, but with your heart." She listened to the deep, resonant hum of the harmony, the comforting pulse of the charm, and the strength within her own spirit. She pictured the Aetherwings waiting for their sky to be reborn. She pictured her grandmother, looking up at a vibrant, colorful world. She sang of joy, of wonder, of the interconnectedness of all things, of the quiet magic that permeated every leaf and every stone. Slowly, impossibly, the gray shell began to crack. First, tiny fissures appeared, then larger cracks, spiderwebbing across the surface. Through these cracks, faint glows of color, like trapped jewels, began to emerge. The golden resonance intensified, her song soaring, pulling forth the hidden beauty. With a sound like the fracturing of 1,000 years of ice, the dissonance shattered. It didn't explode or disappear into nothingness. Instead, the gray shell simply dissolved, breaking apart into shimmering motes of light that drifted away on a newly awakened breeze, like forgotten tears finally finding release. And there, unveiled in all its breathtaking glory, stood the true Prism Peak. It was a colossal spire of pure crystalline light, radiating every conceivable color of the rainbow. Emeralds bled into sapphires, sapphires into amethysts, amethysts into rubies, and rubies into molten gold, all swirling and blending in a majestic dance of light. Its brilliance illuminated the entire summit, chasing away all shadows, painting the gray sky with a million vibrant hues. As the last vestiges of dissonance faded, a wave of pure crystalline sound erupted from the Prism Peak. It was the song of the ether wings, amplified and unbound, a symphony of chimes, whispers and melodies that filled the air with unimaginable beauty. From below, from the hidden gully where Alara had found them, a joyous explosion of light erupted. The ether wings, their colors restored and their forms radiant, soared upwards in a magnificent, swirling dance. They streamed towards the Prism Peak, their individual lights merging with its grand brilliance, their songs weaving into its central melody. The sky, once a dull gray, transformed. The ether wings, revitalized, began their ancient dance, weaving strands of pure light and sound, painting the heavens with the most spectacular rainbow Alara had ever seen. It stretched from one horizon to the other, a glorious, bow-hued beacon that pulsed with life and magic. Alara stood in awe, tears streaming down her face, not of sorrow, but of profound joy and wonder. The harmony of resonance in her hand thrummed with pure, contented energy, and the grandmother's charm settled into a soft, steady glow, its quest fulfilled. She felt a deep connection, a vibrant hum that resonated through her entire being, linking her to the earth below and the limitless sky above. The world felt alive again, brimming with magic, sound, and color. As she watched the ether wings dance, one of them, the sapphire-glowing one she had met earlier, descended gracefully towards her. It hovered before her, its light shimmering with gratitude. This time, its message was clear and joyful. "Why, thank you, weaver of harmony. You have retuned the world's song." With a gentle touch of its ethereal form, the ether wings seemed to absorb the harmony of resonance from Alara's hand. The artifact didn't disappear, but rather dissolved into a shower of sparkling motes that were immediately incorporated into the ether wings' form, making its sapphire light glow even brighter. It was emerging, a return of the harmony to its true home, woven into the very fabric of the sky weavers. The ether wing then circled Alara, and as it did, a faint iridescent glow settled around her. It was a gentle blessing, a permanent connection to the magic she had helped restore. Her grandmother's charm, though its urgent mission was over, now pulsed with a soft, steady rhythm, a lasting reminder of her journey and her connection to her family's legacy. Descending from the cloud-crowned mountains was a different journey altogether. The air was crisp and clear, filled with the joyous songs of birds and the rustling whispers of the wind. The flowers on the Whisperwind Plateau glowed with renewed brilliance, and the stone sentinel, glimpsed in the distance, seemed to shimmer with quiet satisfaction. Alara didn't rush. She savored every moment, every sound, every vibrant color. The world was alive, truly alive, in a way she had only dreamed of. Eventually, she found her way back to the familiar path that led to her own valley. The sun was setting as she walked, painting the sky with a masterpiece of oranges, purples, and blues, all woven by the dancing ether wings high above. And stretching across the entire sky was the most magnificent rainbow she had ever seen, a shimmering, bow-hued beacon that promised hope and wonder to all who gazed upon it. When she finally reached her grandmother's cottage, the old woman was sitting on the porch, a gentle smile on her face, gazing up at the vibrant sky. She looked at Elara, her eyes twinkling with knowing love. "Welcome home, my little weaver of harmony," her grandmother said, her voice soft and warm. "The sky sings again." Elara didn't need to speak. She simply sat beside her grandmother, leaning into her comforting presence, and together, they watched the last vestiges of the rainbow fade into the twilight, leaving behind a sky filled with stars that seemed to shimmer with a new, brighter light. Elara closed her eyes, feeling the gentle pulse of the iridescent glow around her, a constant reminder of the magic she had experienced, the courage she had found, and the harmony she had helped restore. She knew her quest had truly ended, but a new understanding had begun. The world was a place of endless wonder, and sometimes all it took was a little bit of harmony, a guiding light, and a brave heart to make it sing again. Sleep would come easily tonight, filled with dreams of soaring through clouds, meeting creatures of the wind, and weaving the colors of the sky, knowing that the bow-hued beacon would always shine bright.